Maximize your gardening space by building a budget-friendly DIY cinder block raised garden bed. Hi, I'm Alicia from Homemade Homestead. Welcome back, friends. So today we are on my parents' property and we are building some cinder block raised garden beds. Last year we built the first 4 in a row, and this year we are building a second row, if you can see that behind me. So on my parents' property here, they have about 3 acres, and they have an in-ground garden using the mulch or back to Eden method of gardening. But out here behind me, they have this large piece of land that tends to flood. It gets a lot of high water when it rains, and sometimes you can't even mow it for weeks on end because it just gets so much rain. So it's not really a usable property. If you planted a tree out here, an orchard, it wouldn't do very well. Even if you had an in-ground garden covered in mulch, because oftentimes mulch can help with flooding issues, there's honestly just not even hope out here for any type of vegetation. Maybe rice would do well in this swampy environment, but instead we decided to combat that flooding issue with some raised garden beds here. And so initially when we started looking up what kind of bed that we wanted to build, we looked into, the prefabricated, pre-manufactured ones. We looked at building it with sheet metal. We looked at wood, but most of all those options were quite pricey, or they weren't the right size, or wood would eventually rot. Even if we built it out of cedar, which is more rot resistant, it still wouldn't do as well or be as budget friendly as building a bed out of cinder blocks. So that's the route that we took, and in the video you'll see that there's 2 rows of cinder blocks, and then we have these corner blocks here, and they have more of a solid look to them. There's no gaps or holes, and that makes the beds look a lot more complete, and not just like we just threw a pile of stone together. Instead, we have the 2 blocks, the corner blocks, and then we have these toppers. And the toppers also make it look more complete, while also being much more pleasant to sit on than sitting on those blocks that have the big holes and they're kind of rough on the edges. So as we go through this video, if you click on the description box, there's a link to the tutorial on the blog of exactly what kind of supplies we use, how much of it, and where we got it, in case you want to build this DIY raised garden bed. So follow along and I will show you how we built this. To build the 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed, you'll need 36 concrete blocks, 8 corner blocks, 20 solid blocks for the toppers, and some landscape fabric. You'll also need to grab some scrap pieces of cardboard and some soil. The complete list of supplies, dimensions, and where we purchased these can be found on the blog at homemadehomestead.com. To build the first layer of the raised bed, grab 16 concrete blocks and 4 corner blocks. If you plan on using landscape fabric as a weed barrier, cut 2 strips of landscape fabric approximately 14 inches by 112 inches, and then 2 additional strips in the dimensions of 14 by 64 inches. Lay all 4 pieces of fabric out in the shape of a rectangle, being sure that the corners overlap. This will help to prevent any weeds or grass from growing up in the holes of the concrete blocks. Place 4 smooth-sided corner blocks at each corner of the garden bed directly on top of the landscape fabric. Between each corner brick and the remaining 16 concrete blocks. To keep your blocks going in a straight line, it helps to use a wooden board as a straight edge to follow. Once the first layer has been completed, repeat the process to build the second layer. Stagger the bricks so that half of the block overlaps the next block. You do not want the joints of your wall to be even or the walls will become weak and may shift over time. Next, lay strips of cardboard down into the bottom of the concrete raised bed. The purpose of the cardboard is to suppress the weeds. Technically, you could lay landscape fabric down instead of cardboard, but we wanted the worms to be able to get into the soil once the cardboard decays. To finish off the walls of the garden bed, add 20 concrete blocks to the top of the second layer. These blocks not only give the stone raised beds a finished look, they also help to prevent pesky weeds from growing inside the holes of the concrete blocks. Fill the raised beds with soil. If you have things like grass or tree branches or straw or even some logs, lay them in the bottom of the bed. This will prevent you from having to fill the bed with so much dirt, which is a budget saver. The raised garden bed is now ready for planting. This year we are planting potatoes, shallots, lettuce, herbs, and so much more in our beds. Well, thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned a lot. If you have any questions about building these beds, go ahead and leave me a comment below. For more gardening and homesteading tutorials, be sure to check out the blog at homemadehomestead.com. We'll see you around, friends.